Hey everyone, this is Dylan, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review for you guys. So the movie I'm reviewing today is As the Gods Will. So this movie was released on November 15th, 2014 in Japan. And surprisingly, this movie was directed by Takashi Miike. I didn't even realize it when I bought the movie, but after looking at the back, I was like, oh, this was directed by Takashi Miike? That's kind of crazy. And I'm probably going to butcher the main actor's name, but his name is Sota Fukushi. He plays Shun Takahari. I'm not going to even attempt to announce anybody else's name, so we'll just kind of go through. So let's get into what this movie is about. So it is based off of a manga series, which I have never seen or read before, but I saw the cover of this movie and I thought that kind of looks a little interesting, a little bloody, and I was like, well, you know what, might as well. And so this movie is following Shun, and he is a high school student who plays violent video games and things like that, and basically what happens is he's bored one day and he's like, I really wish I could stop being bored, and when he goes to school, there's a Daruma statue doll thing, which is basically like a head, and it's talking and moving around, and it's saying like a little nursery rhyme type thing, which is like, and the Darumaka doll turns around, and that's basically what it's saying. And we find out that if the Darumaka doll is looking at you and you move, your head will explode. And so it is quite interesting, and when it turns around, it exposes its back, and on its back is a button. And the students assume that they need to hit the button in order to make this all stop. And Shun and another student are the last two standing, and they make this pact that Shun is going to kind of like leap over this other student to get to the doll. And so he does, he hits the button, and it's all over. The game has ended, and then we find out that the other student has his head explode, and we find out that only Shun is the one that is able to survive because he was the one that pressed the button. And so he leaves the classroom and he meets up with Ichika, and she is another student who was in this thing, and apparently this happened in all of the classrooms, and they were the only two survivors. They head to find an exit to the school, but all the doors are locked, and they make their way to the gym where there is another game that they have to play. And there are other students in the gym that have congregated there, and there's like writing on the floor, and it basically says something about getting into these mice costumes, and the game is related to a Maneki Nico, which is probably also butchered, but it's basically I don't know, it looked like a lucky cat that I've seen, like, that has the paw that just kind of goes like this sometimes, and they've got like a collar with a little gold emblem on it. So the goal of this game is that they need to get this bell, which has a timer on it, which they assume is going to cause an explosion to kill them all. They have to get this ball into, like, it looks like a basketball hoop on this cat, which is like where the collar is. And so they get their best person who plays basketball, and he's going to throw it into the hoop, and he does, except right before it goes in, the cat goes wham and just knocks the ball out. And they're like, oh no, we've got to do something else. And so they basically have to go through this game and try to survive. And there's a total of 5 games in this movie, and I'm going to stop it there. I don't want to give too much away, which I don't know necessarily if I'm giving a whole lot away, but I definitely think the games are the best part of this movie. Alright, so let's get into what I liked and didn't like about this movie. So the first thing is, during the first game with the Daruma doll, once a person's head explodes, it shoots blood out, but it also has red marbles that fall. And so these red marbles just keep piling up in the classroom, and I thought that that was really interesting imagery, considering that these are kind of a substitute for like pooling blood. And I thought that that was going to be something that continued on throughout this movie, but unfortunately it wasn't. But I really did like that touch, and I do kind of wish that it did go throughout this movie. I mean, it was a little weird at first, but then after I thought about it, I was like, you know, that's actually kind of a really interesting idea, to have this non-blood thing symbolize blood. I think this movie was rated R, so it's not like they were doing that to avoid a certain rating, but I think that it was a pretty interesting idea. And like I said before, I really liked the games. There are 5 games in total, and I thought that they were pretty fun and really interesting. A lot of them are related to common like Japanese games, and I'm unfamiliar with them, so I really liked that. I was talking about the first game where there was some blood and then the marbles. I thought that the gore in this was pretty good, and I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from Takashi Miike, but it's definitely, if you are a fan of Takashi Miike, it's definitely nothing like Audition. It's nothing like Imprint, which I just did a review of, and those are the only 2 Takashi Miike things that I've seen as of right now, and then this movie, but they're nothing alike. This is definitely for a lot brighter, a lot more happy, I guess I would say, but it still has that little horror flair and that kind of Takashi Miike almost torture-ish quality to it, which is actually pretty interesting. So now let's get into what I did not like about this movie. And the first thing is, there are kind of allusions to the outside world and things that are happening, and I did not like that. I thought that they were very confusing and didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I really kind of just wish we would have been in the world of this game. I think that would have made it a lot better. I also didn't like that this kind of left you with a lot of unanswered questions, which I don't know if they were planning on making a sequel or what they were planning on doing with this movie, but it does not have a sequel, and it's been 7 years later, so I don't assume that there's going to be a sequel. But I think that the unanswered questions are probably there for a reason. Maybe they just went over my head. I'm not 100% sure. And then the last thing that I didn't really like was that there is a real lack of character development. There's only a few characters that we even get any kind of semblance of development for, and I guess I would just say that it was more of like a here and now approach to characters rather than like, let's go on a journey and have this arc on what this character is going to go through. And so that was a little disappointing because you don't really end up caring for any of these people. Not even really the main character, so that's could hurt the movie. But I don't know if you're necessarily if you watch this movie, if you necessarily are watching it for the characters, but you're watching it for these games that they're going through. And so that is it for what I liked and didn't like. Let's talk about what other people thought of this movie. On Letterboxd, as a 3.2 out of 5. On Rotten Tomatoes, as a 57% critic score and a 54% audience score. And on IMDb, as a 6.4 out of 10. And I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I thought that the games were really the best part, and I think that that's really what you are watching it for. I was describing this to a friend, and I described it as kind of like a Hunger Games meets The Escape Room meets Saw meets Japanese game shows, which is quite an interesting combination, but I really thought that it kind of worked and was really kind of a fun movie. And I do wish that there were sequels because I would like to see more of what this world is about. But that is it for this movie review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you've seen As the Gods Will and what you thought of it, whether you liked it, you didn't like it, and why. And remember, if you're not already subscribed and you'd like to be, please hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a like if you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and have a great day. Bye.